Welcome to Of Sound Mind and Spirit. I'm Shelley.
And I'm Lisa. We're sisters walking together on a journey of faith. We're not perfect.
And we definitely don't have all the answers. We're inviting you to walk with us as we explore ways we can better know and grow in our faith together. Welcome back to another episode from Of Sound Mind and Spirit. Hello, Lisa.
Hi, Shelley.
Guess what?
What?
We have a guest today. Everyone, please welcome Tina Jost.
Hi, Tina.
Hi. Thank you so much.
Oh, we're so happy to have you here.
Yes, and we're really excited for you to talk to us about praying for our priests. And we're glad that you're with us and we can introduce your book to everybody.
Yep. So for those of you who don't know, Tina Jost lives in Charleston, South Carolina with her husband, 3 grown sons, and a lovely daughter-in-law. She graduated from the University of Missouri, Columbia. She homeschooled all 3 children through high school. Congratulations on getting it through. And if that's not enough, she was the president, co-creator of Our Lady, Star of the Sea Homeschool Co-op for 10 years. She now writes for Radiant Magazine, Catholic Miscellany. Her articles are featured in Theology of the Home and The Loop from Catholic Vote. And we're here today to talk to her about the importance of praying for our priests and a new prayer companion that she has published called 1 Hour for My Priest and how that can help. So, all right, Tina.
Thank you so much for having me to talk about 1 Hour for My Priest. I really appreciate it.
It's actually super exciting to be able to hold this book and see you at the same time because we met you in Chicago back in May, and you were telling us about this book and how it was in the works, and you were so excited about it. And so it's just a joy to see it come to fruition and be able to read it, pray it, and share it with everyone else. So,
Thank you so much.
Very exciting.
Thank you. Yes, I'm pretty sure it was Shelley who found it on Amazon and said,
"Oh, that's right."
You were like
found the order link.
You were squealing because you hadn't seen it online in a shopping area yet. And I right there, I think I was the first person
you were
to pre-order your book.
Yes, well, thank you. It was really lovely to be able to be with you guys when that happened. That was a fun moment.
So do you want to, I guess we'll just start from the beginning. Why do we need to pray for our priests, and what led you to make this a passion to call other people to make sure they're praying for their priests?
Oh, that's a great question. So this little book here is a holy hour that will help you pray for your priest. And you asked, why did I do it? Why did I write this book? Mm-hmm. There were so many reasons. Well, first of all, I had a friend of mine ask me if I would pray for this priest that wasn't our pastor, but he was a family friend priest, and he was at a local parish. In fact, when I was homeschooling the boys, they used to pray for him all the time when he was a seminarian. Mm-hmm. And our family adopted him. So it was easy for me to say, yes, I'll pray for him. So I started out as a 7 sister praying for Father. His name was Renard West. And, just praying that holy hour. And then there was nobody praying for our pastor. So another person said, well, will you be the anchoress for him? And the anchoress is a part of the 7 sisters. There are 7 women who pray for a priest every week. And so I was Monday for the one priest and Tuesday for the other priest. And I was praying a lot. I was really praying because our priests need our prayers desperately right now. They really need our prayers for courage, for strength. When they're faced with trials and tribulations, they really need our prayers. So it was through that process that I read it.
I think people kind of forget to pray for priests. I think there's people that we just kind of, they're, holy men, ordained. So they're good, right?
Yes.
But we forget that they're people and that we all can use prayers. And then also they have a lot of, how do you say that? Like spiritual attacks. I mean, there's a lot of stuff aimed at them,
So true. Yeah, they have a lot of struggles that they don't have a spouse to tell about,
Mhm.
when we have insecurities or we have difficulties, we can turn to our friend, we can turn to our husband or, and they don't really have that. They don't have children too that are praying for them. So
Mhm.
I do agree with you that sometimes we do forget to pray for them. And that's why I think it's so important. It's so important. All the hidden sacrifices that they make for us,
Mhm. Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
and, they bring us the sacraments. They're there
Yes.
for us when we have grief,
Mhm.
and so they do need our prayers.
Mhm.
They do.
Tina, you mentioned the Seven Sisters, and we don't
Yeah.
have that. I'm assuming it's an apostolate, but we don't
Yeah.
have that in our area that I've heard of. And it's starting to, I'm starting to hear of it here and there.
Right.
Could you just tell us briefly what that is and
Yes.
what it means for you to be the anchoress?
Yeah. So the Seven Sisters Apostolate. So this book is not necessarily for the Seven Sisters Apostolate, but if you're a Seven Sister, you might really like this book. It might be useful for you. But the Seven Sisters Apostolate was founded by Jeanette Howe. In fact, this week they're celebrating their 11th anniversary. I think it's tomorrow.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yes. And so she started, she was praying in adoration and she thought, I think we need to be praying for our priests. And I don't know exactly the whole story, but so she started this. And the whole point is that every priest, what the prayer is that every priest in the world will be covered in prayer. And it's beautiful. It's an absolutely beautiful ministry. But what it is you commit to praying for one priest 1 day a week for a year to be a seven sister. And an anchoress commits to 2 years. And really, if you don't have it, it's as simple as contacting Jeanette Howe and asking her how you can start at your parish. And then if you're the one who wants to start it, then you need to find 6 other people who will commit for a year.
Mhm.
I mean, really, that's the way it is. It's kind of a silent apostolate, though. So it's really not something you need to talk to the priest about or, really make a big deal out of it. It's silent. It's between you and Jesus. It really is. It's just prayer.
Mhm.
Well, what I love about the book is that you don't have to be in a Seven Sisters apostolate to do it. Anyone can do it. And I also I know it says 1 hour for my priest,
Mhm.
but it is one of those things that if you don't have a full hour, let's say you've gone to daily mass and they haven't quite dimmed the lights yet to tell you to leave, which happens in our parish, you can sit there and maybe choose 1 or 2 of these activities. I say activities, but they're prayers
Mhm.
to sit and pray with them. And that's actually what I did the other day. I sat there and just went through actually the thank you God, your 1 minute meditation, the one where you actually have, it's almost like a litany, and
Yes.
it's just so beautiful. And just the idea of coming up with each of these items must have been very prayerful in the writing process.
Thank
You
you.
just tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Thank you so much. It really was. It was my heart. So the thank you thing happened. It originated when one of my sons was graduating from college, and in the book I talk about the rosary timer. And if you just say thank you on the rosary bead, on every bead, it's about exactly a minute. If you just say thank you, so you can use that for anything in your life. But with regarding the priest, so many times they're criticized or people complain to them. And it's just so good to just give thanks to God, just to thank God for the priest. And we have just such an amazing pastor at our parish. And it's so easy for me. And when I was praying for those 2 priests, to just say thank you. And so I started off just saying thank you. And then it turned into thank you for all these little things that were coming to my mind. Thank you for him being such a loving father to us. Thank you for his intelligence and for his beautiful homilies and for the sacraments that he gives us. And that's how it kind of started.
Mhm.
And when I initially wrote it, I didn't have all those details in there, but I took it to somebody in my Catholic Writers Guild community, really a friend. And she said, you need to write out details. You need to write out these things so that other people know.
Mhm.
So initially when I wrote it, it was just thank you, God. But then I started writing specifics for others to pray.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm looking at it now as you say that, and it says for the blessings of friendships in his life, for the joy others will bring him, for the legacy he will leave us. I just love that because it's not just thank you for him, for his faith, for his, for mass, or it's so detailed for just everything in his life. And then you give us space to write our own.
Another thing I really like in here are the various different kinds. So you've got the thank yous, and then you've got the rosary. And I've often heard of an intentional rosary, like praying for a person on each bead. But your prayers, and for those of you who are interested, she's got one for each mystery of the rosary, and like all of them: the glorious, the sorrowful, the luminous, the joyful. And so for each one, there's a prayer that specifically names your priest, like leaves that space open. And then each bead is like the thank you one, but a different type of approach. And it's absolutely wonderful. It's very emotional to pray too.
It is. It is. Oh, I actually cried a lot when I prayed when I moved. But what's interesting and what's unique about the rosary, so the way I wrote that was I was just meditating on the mysteries of the rosary, and then the visitation, for example. I was thinking about the fact that Jesus was recognized by St. John the Baptist in the womb of St. Elizabeth. And so then I'm basically we're pleading to Jesus right here in the tabernacle, right? We're pleading with him for the priest. And so I was kind of like bringing the priest into that moment and saying, help Father to recognize you in others. Help him to be joyful. Help him to bring you to others, and that's how that all just came about. I was just praying in the mystery, and I was trying to bring Father into that. And that's how it came out.
That's lovely. So have you given your priest a copy of the book? Does he know it exists?
Yes. And that was a really special thing to me because, so there were two priests. I wrote this book for two different priests. One was my pastor, and one was the priest that the boys always, our kids love, the one that was a seminarian who became a priest to our family. So both of those priests I was praying for every week. And, my pastor didn't know anything about this book the whole time, even though he knew I was writing a book.
Okay.
But I had written another book before this one and gone through the whole pitch process and that whole thing. And he thought that was the book that this was.
Yeah.
And he even read a draft of that book.
How did he respond when he knew that this was about praying for, all priests, but him also?
I think he just said, thank you. He's a very sweet, he's a very kind priest. I think he was taken back, he was surprised and very grateful. He said he was very grateful that people pray for him, and that, sometimes when those things just come to you and you're like, wow, the Holy Spirit just knew I needed to say that or do that. He said, he really felt that through the prayers of not only me, but other women at the pair praying for him, he was really grateful. It was really touched. Now, the other priest, I'm giving him a copy of it tomorrow.
Does he know it exists?
Yes. Okay. I told him yesterday. And I actually asked his permission to say his name because I said, I accidentally did the other day. Is it okay if I say your name again?
Is it better to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission?
Bless me, Father, for I've sinned. I said your name yesterday. So I did actually.
If you say it in the confessional, he kind of has to forgive you, right?
I don't know, but I did. I told him that I was going to say the Anne Renard stories, and he thought that was funny because the boys were always praying for him last.
I love that.
No matter what. So
I love that. And so how is it? So inviting your children to pray for their priest, it sounds like a long time while they were growing up, and now that they're adults. So how did that affect them or shape them to know that they need to be praying for their priest?
Well, I mean, I didn't write this when they were being homeschooled, but but they did pray for them all the time. They prayed for Father, our pastor, a lot, and they prayed for the other priests and a lot of other ones, because in this area, we're blessed to have a lot of seminarians kind of come through our parish. And so they saw all of these young men who had that vocation, who discerned that. And so they did adopt them. And we used to have a prayer wall when I homeschooled. So we had this, laminated board, and they would write different people on there. And then, they'd be so excited to pray for people. It was so cute. I love it.
And so do they have a copy of the book? Your
Yes, I
boys?
do. Yes. Yeah. And one of our sons works for the Diocese of Charleston. And so he's really excited about it, that it actually came to fruition and everything. So
I think that's cool. I love the idea of kind of introducing that concept to them. We talk a lot about intercessory prayer and praying for others. In fact, Shelley and I have had a couple of podcasts lately. They haven't all, as of recording, they've not all aired, but about praying for others and how important and how powerful it is. And so I think this is just, it's so natural to pray for your priest. But again, I can't remember growing up anyone saying you should pray for your priest. Shelley, do you remember that ever kind of coming up in a conversation or in a prayer group? Of course.
If I say yes, are you going to be mad at me?
No. I don't remember that, anyone ever, besides at Mass, you pray for your bishop, that kind of thing. But I don't remember praying for my priest or being asked to or told to.
I think for me, it started when I started teaching or assisting in teaching CCE, and the person who led that first class where I was just the assistant, she told them to pray for our priest. And I think it was usually in tie with the vocations week, that we pray for priests.
Oh, yes.
I will say that somewhere in the last 5 or 6 years, it started to stick. I started to hear it often. And it's funny because I'm in a small group of women. And when we go around and do our intercessory prayers, prayer intentions before we begin, we all know somebody's going to say this and somebody's going to say that. And mine is always that I pray for our priests. I pray for our the brothers and sisters, and the lay people in those organizations. And I pray for those who have no one to pray for them. And so everybody kind of knows that's mine. But that's what I think that's why I really loved this book, Tina. I told you the first minute I got it, I was going somewhere with my son. I had to drop him off and wait for him. And I sat here and I won't say I read this book. I prayed this book, except the rosary. I didn't go through the whole rosaries. That's a long time. And I was only there for a short. But I prayed all of the rest of these out loud in my car, not in front of the tabernacle, but still. Yeah. And I got very emotional while I was praying them. And so that's my favorite thing now is I have a way to pray for my priest that isn't just, okay, God, thank you for Father John. Thank you for Father Joy. Praying for my priest. No, now I can sit and actually meditate about who they are, what they need or what they might need, but God knows what they need. And so if I unite myself in prayer, especially will be powerful when I finally sit in front of the adoration in the monstrance, the sacrament of the monstrance. I've only done it in front of the tabernacle so far, but I just can't imagine how wonderful it's going to be for me to feel. I mean, I hate saying this. I'm kind of a nutcase today. You know what I'm trying to say, though, I think, right?
Yes. Yeah. I think what you're trying to say is that you can't wait to pray when you are in adoration to see that experience, how that really is, because it had an emotional effect on you. And I can say that if you haven't read the stations or prayed the stations in the back of the book, the stations to me are the part that I got the most emotional when I wrote them, because so they're in the back of the book, or they're pretty far in the back of the book, but like the rosary, like the mysteries of the rosary, I bring the priest into different moments of the stations. And, when I actually was praying the stations for these priests and other priests, I've actually prayed this for other priests as well, but I was praying the stations in the church and before I had written them. And the 8th station, which is when Jesus consoles the women, it really struck me how Jesus is suffering. He's fallen so many times, he's bleeding. And then he sees the women, because they're like us, they're like, oh no, he's dying. Look at him. And they're crying. I mean, that's how I would be, right? That's how you would be. And yet he turns and he consoles them, and it really struck me. That's what our priests have to do. They have difficult times. They have struggles, and we don't even know what the struggles are. They
Right.
have people, there might be someone in the parish who suffered a great suffering, and they're carrying that.
Mm-hmm.
They're concerned about someone, or they might, have to deal with a child who dies, or, some other tragedy, and they have to carry that. And they do it, and they do it faithfully. And we're so blessed. We're so blessed for our good priests. We have so many good priests.
I think it's the last, is it the last chapter? No, almost. The help him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was about to say that too.
Yeah. So I love that. That strikes me because I just think back to especially 2020 when the churches closed, and I was working for my parish at that time. So I was very up close and personal with that church closing stuff, and everyone's opinions, and everyone is very opinionated and very outspoken. And our priests took a lot of anger from people.
Yeah.
And they were doing what they were told to do by their superior. And I felt for them so much because they are people, and they struggled so much through all of this, just like the rest of us did, that they had some real struggles, but yet they had to be
Obedient. Obedient.
Well, yes, they had to be obedient, but they also had to be the leader, the shepherd. I mean, they still had to tend to everybody and be there for all of us, and, go and pray for the people who were sick and do all these things. And yet they had their own concerns and fears. And am I doing the right thing? Am I not doing the right thing? What's going on? How do am I, are we supposed to have, let's say, adoration in a parking lot? Are we supposed to have drive-through back to school blessings? What are all the things that we're supposed to? How am I ministering to people when we can't have them inside of the church? It was such it was just dramatic time, being, especially, the first mass where there were only 10 of us allowed in the building, and all of that. And I don't think enough of us focused on what did they need, that they needed extra prayer and they needed that support. So when I see that chapter, and I have not prayed with the book yet, I'm just being honest. But when I see that chapter, I think that that's the one I want to start with, because I just think that they need it. They need that help and strength from the rest
Lisa,
of us in prayer.
You're going to want to bring a Kleenex when you do that one. I'm serious.
Probably so.
Especially with your history of having worked so closely with our priests.
Yeah.
When you get to that section, you're going to want to make sure Kleenex is in your purse.
And really the stations too. And really, you're just going to need Kleenex. Just bring them. Yeah. But that help him section is like that final thing. The whole book, we're pleading to God for their soul. We're pleading for their eternity in heaven. Really, that's what we're doing. We're praying for them to persevere so that they can be united with God. But in the end, we literally do say at the very end of the help him, that he can enter into, that he can be in heaven for all eternity. Right. May the God of peace himself make Father perfectly holy, and may he entirely spirit and soul and body be preserved blameless for the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ.
Wow.
That's what we want. And that's why we're praying for our priests right now.
I love that. I just got chills when you read that. That's really special. And you've got the blank there for their name.
Yes. Throughout the whole book, because it is, that's the thing. There are several books about praying for priests. There's a great book called Praying for Priests, but this one is 1 hour for my priest. So it's one priest, one soul before God for 1 hour. And that's what's different about it. It's bringing one person and you're just pleading to God over and over for them before God. And it's just such an honor to even be able to do that.
Yeah.
It really is.
I hadn't thought about that too. Usually when we pray like at mass, or like Shelley mentioned for vocations and stuff, it's kind of for our priests, like kind of a generalization.
True.
Versus saying picking one person, an individual, a very specific person, and praying for them. So I guess if your parish has a lot of priests, you need to spend a lot of hours.
No. You need to make sure that lots of people have a copy.
True.
There you
And that
go.
you all go to
Yeah.
adoration together. Maybe you get 2 or 3 people together at the same time.
Mhm.
And you kind of like, okay, you're going to pray for the pastor. You're going to pray for the parochial vicar. You're going to pray for the priest in residence. And then, you all
Actually,
got them covered, right?
you need to get Seven Sisters at your parish
There
if
you
you don't
go.
have them, and get people praying for them, because it's free. It doesn't cost anything. If you can't afford my book, there's other ways you can pray for your priest. I mean, I think this is a great book for it, but I do also think that you don't need, there's other ways, but the priests do need prayers. They need our prayers. And so, it's easy. Like I said, I'll help you get started. You guys can do it.
I think that I've heard of Seven Sisters a few times off and on over the years. I don't remember where I first heard about it. And it has been something that's kind of been on my mind, but it's not something I feel called myself to start, and run or whatever. But I think that if more women knew about it,
Yes,
they would do it. I think there are so many faithful women, and like you said, prayer is not something we're already doing, right?
Yeah.
We should be doing. So it's something we're already doing. And so to then dedicate that time to your priest, I think that, I think there are a lot of women who would jump on that if they knew it was out there, and B, somebody would organize. Cause there's always a lot of people who want to do something who don't want to organize. And I'm taking a break right now from organizing. So just throwing that out there for everyone who knows me. They're like, Lisa, you organize everything. Yes, but I'm still taking a break from that. I know. I've been on a break.
And you can't help it.
I can't help it, but God has called me to take a break from doing all the volunteering and all the organizing right now.
That's good. You're right about that. Sometimes you can do too much,
Yes.
Okay, I need to stop a minute. But
yes, that's Shelley calls it my be still and no error. I'm still focusing on my own prayer life and being still versus organizing all the other things.
It comes in time.
Yes.
Time.
Seasons
Through
of life.
everything, there is a season.
That's right.
Yes. And I think, Lisa, I was a lot like that. I was running this homeschool co-op, and I was doing all these things. My youngest son went to college, and then that was when I finally started to have time for these kinds of things. But there's a lot of other groups that support our priests. There's a lot of people who pray for their parish priest, their friend, their relative who's a priest. There's the Sarah Club. There's all kinds of groups that support our priests, So I hope that they can learn about the book and be able to pray too.
I think so.
So I was going to say, Tina, is there anything else that you would like us to know about the book or about praying for your priests before we ask you our sister question?
Oh yeah, have to ask the sister questions.
She's like,
okay. Just consider praying for your priests and doing a holy hour, because again, they do need our prayers. They really do. And just having that time, something happens when you go before the Blessed Sacrament and you pray. It's because you're in the presence of God, I'm sure. But when you dedicate an hour every week to do it, somehow time multiplies. I don't even know how it happens. It's like I have this on my schedule every week, and it does take time, to go to the church and to pray. But at the same time, it just multiplies. Somehow time multiplies when you do it. So please pray for your priest. And you can get my book at OSV. OSV is where you can get this book, or Amazon. Or all of them. So,
and we'll put a link in the show notes too for anyone who needs to go look for it. What if, I'm just going to ask for, there's somebody, I know there's at least one person out there that's like, what if I can't get to adoration? Like, what if? Can I do the 1 hour?
Oh, I pray this in my living room
in a garden
too.
somewhere.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I pray
in your
this
car in a parking lot at the baseball field, which is where I was.
You can pray it anywhere. That's right. Yes.
Okay.
St. John Vianney said, fly before the tabernacle. And I love that. I just love that phrase, fly before the tabernacle, because if you wake in the middle of the night, fly before the tabernacle. And I am so kind of in a period of not sleeping great.
I have no idea what that's about.
Yeah, right. So fly before the tabernacle in your mind. Just go and be in the presence of God and place yourself in his presence. And that, there is a part of the book that's in the presence of God. And it's just reminding you that you are in the presence of God before you begin your prayers. And we kind of need to do that every single time we pray, but we don't. I know I don't, but just do that. And then you can, begin.
Yeah, we didn't mention that part, but that could be a whole nother episode about being in the presence of God. Because if y'all don't know what we're talking about, go get the book and read that section, because it's kind of like, whoa.
You guys are so fun.
Spoilers. No.
Okay.
All right, Tina. Now comes the questions that we ask every guest. I know you're like, okay. So Shelly and I are sisters, as you know. And so we do know you have sisters. So do you have a sister story that you'd like to share? Because we really like to invite people to talk about the goodness of sibling relationships, specifically sisters, because we get a bad rap.
Yes. Well, okay. Like I mentioned before, I am one of 11 children, and I have 8 older brothers, and I have an older sister who is 10 years older, and a younger sister who's just about 2 years younger. And I would say the sister story. I was thinking about a lot of different things, but the thing is that's different about a sister, because having 8 brothers, a sister you can always depend on, right? But a sister, for me, when my oldest sister, Annette, had her first child, my older siblings had already had children. So there were 4 boys and then Annette, and then 4 boys and my sister Mary and I. And we were the babies. And but so I already had 4 of my older brothers, several of them already had kids, and they were I have great nieces and nephews, so many of them. But when my sister had her first child, it was like the world stopped. There's just something about when your sister has a baby that's different than anybody else. And then my younger sister, she has 8 children. And I don't get to see them very often because they're in St. Louis and I'm in Charleston. But I can't explain it. I would do anything for those kids. They're so special to me. And so to me, that's my sister story.
I like that. What's funny? So Shelly's, we have a brother, so it's the 2 of us, and then we have a younger brother. And when Shelly had the first baby, and I do remember just like camping out at her house for she lived about an hour away, and I would just would sit there and just hold her and I
remember that.
Not Shelly, hold the baby, just dote on her and
I actually just yesterday I sent Cameron, my oldest, I sent a picture of her because it was the anniversary of her baptism, and you're in the picture.
Aww.
And your whole face is like shining. You've got this just a very girly kind of joyful look on your face looking at her. And
you're going to have to send that to me.
Said that, I will.
I want to see the picture. Come on.
I want to see me 25 years younger.
I know.
Okay.
That's
all
fun.
right. Okay, Tina, if you want, I'll look for the picture, but Tina, saint, we ask everybody who's their saint, that walking with them right now in this particular season of your life.
Well, I didn't know it was the saint that's walking with you in this season, but I was going to talk about Mother Teresa because so she's a very special saint to me, because when I was around 10 years old, I met her. And she came to the cathedral in St. Louis. And like I said, I'm one of 11 kids. My mom, for some reason, asked me to go with her. And I'm so blessed. I'm so grateful now that I was able to do that. But one of my brothers and myself, we went with my mom to the cathedral in St. Louis, and she was speaking. And it was a mass and everything, but just being in her presence, and she just impacted my life so much to see how one person could do so much, And she was little, and I'm only 5'1", and she's really short. She's shorter than me, but she was so powerful. She spoke and you listened, and she was just so beautiful. So she's really impacted my life a lot.
So do you now pray and ask her for intercession? Do you have a devotion to her in that way?
I do ask her to intercede for me. The saint that I ask for the most help is Saint Joseph. it's Saint Joseph. That's who my saint is, because I have men all the time, always around me. And Saint Joseph is who I call on a lot. He's really my saint that I need to ask for help every day.
Aw.
Saint Joseph, you are the silent, strong man. Make
Yes.
all of the men in my life right now silent and silent.
You just said it right there. Yes. I mean, that's so true.
With your story about growing up with 8 brothers too, and then 3 sons, and I'm sitting here thinking, yeah, everybody thinks the boys are quiet. They're not quiet.
No, I just have one son, and when he is home, man, you forget how noisy it is, and I just have one.
Yes,
Sometimes when they get quiet is when you worry.
Well, true.
Wait, I don't hear anything.
No, I have a daughter-in-law now, and when she first started coming over, we have brunch on Sundays. So the boys come over almost every Sunday, not everyone, and they'll bring friends. And we have another set of friends that come, and they're one of our son's age, and they're married and have kids, and they come. But what was I going to say? Oh, my daughter-in-law, when she first started coming over for brunch, it was like they were so loud because, I mean, everybody's talking and they're debating. They love to debate. And I mean, it's just, it's so loud. And she just like looks at me and I looked at her and I was like, oh, I'm so happy you're here. So, like, let's go in another room. Come on, let's go in the living room.
Tina, we are so thankful that you're here and that we got to share your book with everybody and really talk about the importance of praying for our priests. And I hope that our listeners will, one, I hope all of our dear listeners will go buy your book. And then 2, more importantly, I think more importantly that they begin or continue praying for their priests by name. I hope that they have realized how important that is for us to do individually. So
thank you so much. Thank you.
I know. I feel like we should just like hang up the call and then we can all just chat.
Yes, I know. Shelley, you can't go anywhere.
All right. Thank you, dear listeners, for being here this week. We hope that you've enjoyed this conversation, and we hope that we will see you back next week for another new episode from Of Sound Mind and Spirit. Bye, y'all.
Okay. Bye, everybody.